How old was you when you first picked up the bag?
Probably about 11.
Mm.
The first time I really tried to sell drugs, like 11. I was so young trying to sell drugs, and none of the dope fiends wouldn't fuck with me.
Wow.
Get the fuck on, little boy. But I really got drugs. Hey, what's up? Woo, woo. You know what I mean? But they ain't paying me no attention because I'm so little, and they looking at me like, oh, this nigga a joke, or he got some fake crack, or whatever the case it was. But yeah, I was like 11.
How do you get your hands on crack at 11 years old?
The first drugs, and I'm not going to even mention this because who it is, but the first drugs I got, I stole from somebody. And, that was my introduction to it.
Mm.
Most people know me as Wall Street Rail. But for the last 15 years, 14 years, 9 months, 19 days to be exact, the government knew me as MA43083-039. You're not tuned into my fair vacation.
Wall Street, my Fed vacation. To start it off, man, um, and knowing your journey and having an opportunity to kind of communicate with you, have conversations with you. For me, I understand why it was a necessity for you to build this platform. But before we began to go into episodes, or you began to go into episodes, you felt that it was very imperative to lay the foundation for the people to know you, understand your journey, and understand exactly why you felt that it was necessary to build this platform called My Fed Vacation. So, without further ado, man, Wall Street, man, we're gonna dive a little bit into it and bring the people abreast to who you are and why you chose to create this platform, man. How you doing today, first and
I'm
foremost?
doing good, man. Shout out to my man GX Forum Magazine, you know what I mean?
For sure, man. It was definitely an honor when you said, "Hey, G, I need you to do this for me." Man, I was more than willing to do it. Of course, you've been aiding and assisting with the Foreign Magazine, you know what I mean, and bringing your personality to it, bringing your connections, your resources, and definitely being a real brother. So it was a no brainer when you asked me to interview you. So for the people that don't know, if you can tell the people a little bit about where you from and what was your upbringing like being born and raised in the city of Detroit.
Well, like you say, I'm from the city of Detroit, West Side, 48204/48210, Beechwood, Crunk, baby. You know what I mean? Grew up like everybody else, mostly of my generation. Single parent home, parent addicted to drugs, left to the streets without no guidance. You know what I'm saying? And like I said before on the platform I spoke on before, I'm a crack baby. Not in the essence of I was born as a crack baby, but I'm a baby of that generation. So all my 80s babies, early 90s babies, y'all really understand where I'm coming from. We was like left without no guidance because the destruction of that drug was wreaking havoc on our community, on our parents, on our family. So we was left to raise ourselves basically, and that's how I came up.
Absolutely. If you can, when you say parents addicted to drugs, are you speaking of both mom and dad, mom? If you can elaborate a little bit about that.
With all respect to my mother, like, cause my mother was what you might call a functional addict. Because if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. You know what I mean? Because we always had the best of everything, from Jordans to triple fat goose to starter jackets, anything that was a trend when we was kids, we had it. But my mother battled her demons too. Now my father is the same, but he wasn't very much present. But he was addicted to drugs too. So I grew up with both parents addicted to drugs. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. That's a common thing for, people that was born in that era. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't, now people, look at crack and it's like, hell no. But when it was first, hit the scene and it first came about, a lot of people fell into it just on some recreation type type stuff. You know
The
what I
same
mean?
as how they doing. Well, when there was the era of Molly's, when there was the era of ecstasy, it was like something new. So it was a recreational thing with nobody really knew what it would cause in the future, the destruction it would cause, the havoc it would wreak. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same with these drugs now. Nobody knows where this shit gonna end up going. Now, hopefully it doesn't be another crack repeating itself and destroy our community even more than it's been destroyed. But yeah, I think that was the beginning of it with a lot of people that was using it back in the 80s. It was a recreational thing, and they didn't know the addiction would be that strong or that powerful.
No doubt. Can you remember like those first moments when you understood that it was a new drug on the scene? Like when it first hit, do you remember those
I
times?
remember it very vividly, and it's like it's fucked up in hindsight because, like I say, I was never taught right or wrong. And you know, in the era I come up in, it was a crack house 2 doors down for me. You know what I'm saying? And the dudes that was hustling were teenagers, early teens. So I kind of thought that what it was to do. You know what I'm saying? And I remember finding little vials around my house and everything. But you know, my ideology was I always looked at the dealer more than the user. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So because in the beginning I didn't see I never seen and even to this day I never had seen my mother use drugs. Now my father, that's a different story. But I had never seen my mother use it. But just by me knowing and being in the streets myself, I knew what it was.
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, like I can remember very vividly how it was and my first time seeing it and what was going on because it was like that was the '80s. It was everywhere. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Were you in high school around that time or
Fuck no, I was in
okay.
elementary school.
Okay. I ain't keeping up with the time
Elementary
frame, so
school, the '80s.
mm. So as you begin to get older, right? Or we just gonna keep it there, right? What was the consequence like as a child? Like what was some of the things that you experienced um that may have made your life a little bit more difficult as your parents were using, or by you saying that your mom was a functional addict, it didn't really affect
It
y'all
didn't really
situation.
affect me. It didn't really affect me now as far as guidance and shit like that. But as far as I don't have no stories about we didn't have no clothes, we didn't have no running water, we didn't have no heat. I don't have those type of stories because, like I said, my mother was a functional addict, and then I always had my grandmother, her mother. You know what I mean? That was there as a backbone for when shit did get a little rough, but it
Yeah,
never got out of control rough. Like we never went without none of that. I don't have those type of stories as some other children of that era or that generation can say they had. Like I even witnessed like cousins get taken by the state and shit like
mm,
that. And my man, 2 doors down from me, their mother had 5 kids. She lost all 5 of them to the system because of
mm.
her addiction. But me and my brother, we don't have those type of you know what I mean stories. It didn't affect us that deeply.
No doubt, no doubt. So as time progressed, um, you said you always looked at the hustler, the person that was, you know what I mean, that was selling it as opposed to the person that was using it. What was that first moment for you where you said, "Hey, I'm about to get this money and I'm gonna get it selling this product"?
I mean, it was like for real, for real. It was like second nature. That's all I always ever knew. That's all I always wanted to be. Like, okay, and I was a smart kid in school. Anybody watching this, you know, I still got connections with my elementary, middle school teachers. They can tell you I was always an honor roll student, but it was just like always had that street element, product of your environment. That's like I'm a true testament of that. I ain't want to do nothing but be the hustlers I seen because just like the lifestyle they was living and how they was living, that's what I was attracted to. And I didn't have a father figure or a strong parental system to tell me different. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm putting food and clothes on your back and I'm battling my addiction. So you really left to fend for yourself. You really learn everything on your own. You know what I mean?
for sure.
So that's what I picked up.
How old was you when you first picked up the bag?
Probably about 11.
Mm,
The first time I really tried to sell drugs, like 11. I was so young trying to sell drugs and none of the dope fiends wouldn't fuck with me.
wow.
Get the fuck on, little boy. But I really got drugs. Hey, what's up? Woo, woo. You know what I mean? But they ain't paying me no attention because I'm so little. And they looking at me like, oh, this nigga a joke. Or he got some fake crack or whatever the case it was. But yeah, I was like 11.
How do you get your hands on crack at 11 years old?
The first drugs, and I'm not going to even mention this because who it is, but the first drugs I got, I stole from somebody, and you know that was my introduction to it.
Hmm.
But you know that didn't really go nowhere from me. So another guy I grew up with, He like 5, 6 years older than me, and he ended up giving me a sack. They had a strip in my hood on Vancouver, little store called Jake's. Everybody used to hustle in front of us, so I'm the youngin' out there, and I'm on the block with them. And the hustle and bustle of the streets, I didn't really know it. They running up the cars and the fiends coming, and I was the only one out there, and like what I mean, they didn't know what was going on, so I had to catch all the short sales. Somebody got $7 off, sir. You know what I mean? They playing me like anything because I'm a new kid on the block. But yeah, that was my introduction.
Wow. And so as time began to progress, I'm sure you began to learn the game, understand the game, begin to tighten up some screws and kind of build yourself up to the point where you actually start seeing profit and you actually start being able to, you know, buy things, make
14, I
purchases.
was full blown. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna speak on it because I'm sure he don't mind me speak on it. But Q, Q was the first person that really showed me the game, and where I started getting some money. It's 95 something. I was 14 years old. I was hustling for Q, sitting in one of his trap houses, and I was ran away from home or telling my people I'm somewhere, and I'm getting his money.
Hmm. On the music side, the only reason why I want to mention the music because you say 95 and in 95, like on the music side, like did the music encourage or play a factor into what people was driving, what what the things that you saw that made you want to hustle harder and really get it in? Like I don't know if Nas and Jay or whatever, I don't know who was really popping at that time, but could you elaborate on that?
I mean, like, I always grew up listening to East Coast music, so my taste of music was always different than everybody else's. But back in '95, it was the Dog Pound, the Snoop, the Death Row still was playing the Chronic, and mostly West Coast music was popping in. That's what the vibe was in the streets. Spice One was real big back then, all the older hustlers and everything. But me, I grew up off Mobb Deep, and '95 is a significant year for me because that's when Mobb Deep Infamous came out. Raekwon the Purple Tape came out. I can remember what tapes was out in '95 because we sitting in the spot listening to him.
Yeah.
And Q come home or come to the spot and he don't like that shit. Man, put this on. He putting on West Coast music 11-5, and we sit there and argue about that shit. But I was on East Coast music hard as shit.
No
And
doubt.
if you know me as a rapper, that influenced my style as a rapper. I always rap like an East Coast nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Nas was one of my favorite artists, but like Mobb Deep is still my favorite rap group of all time.
Wow.
So that was a heavy influence on me. Mobb Deep, that's what I grew up on listening off of. So that was more so into that got me into the bullshit. It wasn't really like the flashy lifestyle. That got me into guns and wearing army fatigue, and I was into that. You know what I'm saying?
That real New York
Yeah,
type.
yeah.
Not
I
to
was,
say New York
yeah,
because of
but
course Detroit got their own, but that
that's
mentality.
what influenced me. The griminess, the guns, the gunplay. You know what I mean? I was in. That's what influenced me more than the hustler. It was getting money was just something I had to do. That came with it. But as far as music influenced me, yeah, Mobb Deep the one that got me on bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, wow. So we know that prior to you, because if anybody know your story, they know that you did a substantial amount of time in federal prison, right? But before you went to prison, you actually had a successful music career within the city of Detroit, and on your way to actually making some noise with you and your whole team that you was a part of. You feel me? If you can you just talk a little bit about those beginning stages of you picking up the mic and starting to uh use your street money and all of your resources to really push your music career?
Musically, I would say I got 2 eras or 2 runs because I always was rapping. Like since a kid, I always knew how to rap. You know what I mean? That's just was something because I'm a hip hop baby. I grew up with. See, hip hop is 50 years old in 2023, so I grew up with hip hop. So I always wanted to rap. I always knew how to rap. So the first era I would say, or the first run I would say, was with Gangsta Boogie Records. That's what Q. Q had a record label when we was doing everything we was doing and throwing money up against the wall because we really know the business. But we, had features from the Cheddar Boys and Rock Bottom and shit like that back then, and all of us ultimately went to jail.
Mm.
All of us went to prison at the same time, not for the same thing. It wasn't an indictment, but all of us just simultaneously went to prison. So that killed the Gangsta Boogie era. So when I got out of state prison, which I only did 2 years, so when I got out of state prison, it was like, I'm back to getting money, but I still love music. So now it's my second era, my second run with the music, and that was when me and KA kind of partnered up, and that was
So
like
so if we can, I just wanna pause a little bit. What year was that? Because I kind of want to walk people through a timeline. What year was that when you ended up going to go do the two?
2004, from
Okay.
2004 to 2006.
All right.
So in 2006, when I came home, I kind of felt I had to fill Q's shoes a little bit and try to put the team back together, put the band back together. So, the money was there because I hit the ground running, back hustling. So me and KA linked up, and KA had a real big buzz. If you
For sure.
know Detroit music, KA was real big in 2006. And I had my man Lil J on my team. Lil J, shout out Lil J City Star Entertainment, and he shot a lot of the visuals to all those videos of that era, all white buffs. Lil J shot that video. The Lies Boys, when they was on the Lies and they shut the Lies down, Lil J was filming all that. So Lil J was part of the team, and we put together a DVD, Paper Chasing TV, and that was it.
Most definitely. And to talk about that KA run, man, he definitely think a lot of people don't really give him the credit that he deserved during that time. KA had a real major impact on the city and the stuff that he was doing. How did y'all put that relationship together? Did y'all just have mutual friends or how did
Yeah,
y'all link?
KA actually is my co-defendant's cousin. So before we started dealing with each other musically, I always knew him from in the street. You know what I'm saying? Because it's my co-defendant cousin. So when I come home and he popping, it was just quite natural. I reached out to him and linked up with him, and he came up to the studio and we dropped the song, and like we was freaking frack ever since then, like on some street shit more than some music shit. But it was
Yeah,
like hand in hand. You know what I mean? We get money together and we both rap, so it was like quite natural that we just do what we
link
was
up.
doing. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, for sure. So how long was that second run before the indictment came down and you ultimately had to do what you do 15 years in prison, in federal prison?
Mm-hmm.
How long ago was that after you and KA linked and you went on your second run for the music?
About 2 years. I was free
Mm,
about 2 years, from
mm,
'06 to the end of '08.
mm. If you can, could you let the people know exactly what you was charged with and just kind of walk us through that process of going to court and the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts that you was experiencing, and even like some of the moments that led up to it. Some people know the feds are on them. You know what I mean? Did you know the feds was watching you? Did you have that feeling? Like, just talk a little bit about that.
My case started because of my two co-defendants served to the DEA. A person had died off fentanyl, and you got to think this was '07, so the fentanyl epidemic, and it wasn't as big as it is now. So when this little small ass Hicktown hustling, somebody died off fentanyl, so it's real big to them. But when they get to doing their investigation, where did this heroin come with this fentanyl on it? The Detroit dudes, the Detroit dudes, the Detroit dudes. So eventually the DEA set up a buying bus. They copped from our spot 4 times, and my co-defendants both served them for 2 times apiece. That's how the initial indictment got started. I didn't have anything to do with the indictment because at the time I was a little bit well off. I wasn't selling packs. I wasn't hand in hand. But ultimately, the feds, they pressured them and who your supplier is and whoop, and everything fell back on me. So
Mm,
that's how I eventually got indicted. Now I wasn't really aware of what was going on, but I was because I had a lawyer that was my state lawyer. I used to go down there and give her a couple of because when I found out what was going on, I used to go try to check up on what was going on with their situation because it was like these niggas indicted. I know I got to be indicted because it was my operation. I'm the one.
mm.
Now granted, all of us was getting money, but it was my whole play, my whole plan. I had the time. So it's like, damn, if they getting indicted, I know I got to be going down. So ultimately through the whole situation, a friend of mine down there contacted me, said they was contacted to go to the grand jury. And I didn't really know what the grand jury was at the time. You know what I mean? So I go straight down to the lawyer's office and she tell me, yeah, if somebody going to the grand jury on you going to prison.
Mm,
You need to give me this type of money, this type of money. And at the time, the money she was saying give her, I wasn't willing to give her. I'm
mm,
trying to hold on to the money, you know what I mean? Like, all right, whatever. I ain't get caught with nothing. How the fuck I'm gonna get indicted? I was naive to the federal laws at the time. So eventually I did get indicted, you know what I mean? And I was sentenced to 22 years, you know what I mean? And that whole process, like, it was a conspiracy.
mm.
And that's one of the things I want to break down on My Fair Vacation. And that's basically why I want to do My Fair Vacation, because I want it to be educational and cautionary. And at the same time, a little bit entertaining because, it's stories in prison that you might can laugh off of, but it really ain't no joke. And like I always tell people, My Fair Vacation was the mind state I had to be in while I was doing that time. Because it was like, who the fuck can do 20 years peacefully, happy? So you got to put yourself in a mindset to get through that shit. You know what I mean? Because I've seen strong men break, and I wasn't gonna be amongst the broken men.
Real talk.
So that was the mindset I had to get in to get through it. And look at me here now. I'm here now to tell my story. I made it out.
Real talk.
Slightly unscathed. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk. So, bam, that's a perfect segue to go into actually, walking through that thing, right? You get indicted, you get sentenced to 22 years
22
in
years.
federal prison. When you actually, go through the process and you step foot into that federal prison, if you can tell us what was the first prison that you ended up going to, and what was the thought process? A lot of people, it's that the fear of the unknown. And when I say fear, I ain't talking about like just super
I'm glad you just said that, because I was gonna word it exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
My first prison was FCI Elkton, and that's in Lisbon, Ohio. And I had some homies from the street there that I knew that was there, but it was still like the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going on. It's like you say, it's not like I'm scared because I'm a sucker. It's just the fear of the unknown. So, but when I got through there, when I got to the compound, I came through R&D. As soon as I come through R&D in my bedroll, I'm coming across the yard and I hear a motherfucker screaming my name. Because my homies knew I was coming. So that kind of erased everything right there off the break. You know what I'm saying? It was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? I'm here.
Yeah.
And, just having that camaraderie of dudes I really knew from the street kind of wiped away all fears. And it was just like, fuck it. It is what it is. Let me figure this thing out. You know what I mean?
When you first get on there, do they ask for the paperwork? Is that the first thing? Like, because we hear a lot of people say and talk about it, but is that really a thing where as soon as you get there, people like, where the paperwork at?
It's really a thing if your car's standing on that. And no knock to none of the solid men from the Michigan car, but up Elkton, the whole car really wasn't on that. Now, amongst the men that I rotated with, I couldn't wait to present that because that's what I was taught fighting the case. Like you heard, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I was always a thought in my mind, like I got to pull up on my paperwork. So it wasn't even a question when nobody had to ask me. It's my driver's license. Yeah, I'm cleared. I'm stamped. This is what it is. So that was always, when I meet a dude, I was always presenting that.
Yeah.
And it turned to the point where I was on it more than dudes that was already there. You know what I'm saying?
So you basically damn near introduced the culture there for like where that paperwork
I wouldn't
is.
say I introduced the culture, but I'm saying like if I meet you, I'm putting up to you this me. So amongst my circle, that was the vibe. I made sure that I dealt with guys who was on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, boom. So you get through that, like you say, initially the fear of the unknown. You hit the yard, the homies calling your name, you got relationships and people that's already there. So at that moment, you kind of feeling a little bit like, all right, boom, we about to just go on and do this time. Step by step, walk us through the first 5 years, 10-year mark, 15-year mark. And when did you, within that time frame, when did you create the book called My Fair Vacation? Because to my understanding, this all stems from the book that you wrote while and got published while in federal prison.
Well, the first 5 years, it's pretty significant for me because I lost my mother 3 years into my bit. Now, granted, I had all that time, and I went into the system a little naive and young. I was 27, so I was still like a kid in a sense. Not a kid, but I still was young and wild to a certain extent. So I ended up getting in trouble at FCI Elkton after going to the hole several times, and I got shit from FCI Elkton to FCI McKean. And that whole situation is so, I remember it so vividly because it was Father's Day weekend, and my mother was coming to see me. And my mother usually came to see me every Father's Day. So that week before Father's Day, that Tuesday, I get a letter. Well, not a letter. My name is on a call out. Call out. You know what a call out is for him. You doing time, but my name on the call out for R&D. And prior to that, I was always fucking with my unit manager, like, man, get me the fuck away from this prison. I want to go to somewhere else because I didn't think Elkton was as sweet as it was because I'm new.
Mm.
They strict, but I didn't understand that they can get a lot worse at other prisons.
Yeah.
So, long story short, the unit manager said, yeah, Wilkins, okay, I'm gonna grant your wish. You getting the fuck up out of here. So my name on the caller for R&D, I found out I'm getting shipped to a high security prison. So this was the first week of June. So long story short, that Thursday I get shipped. My mother was coming to see me that Saturday.
Mm.
So I get to FCI McKean June 9th. So when I get to FCI McKean, it's a medium. So the vibe is way more different. It's more tense, more violent than Elkton. So it's like, damn, I done fucked up. But it is what it is. I got to strap my nuts on, do what I got to do. Shout out to my partner Mike. Everybody know Mike, but Mike is my baby mother's cousin. Mike was up there with me. So
the rapper Mike?
Yeah, Mike. So I initially sought out Mike on the compounds. I knew he was there. So me and Mike rocking. A week later, my mother died. A week later. So after that happened, that kind of sent me into a tailspin. And it was just like, I didn't care about nothing from there. So I eventually got into a bunch of bullshit at McKean, like little situations and shit where we got to have knives and all that shit, and just little dumbass situations because I was hurt, trying to let out that anger and let out that pain, trying to recover from the grieving from my mother's death. So
yeah,
my points was already fucked up though. My points was wrong. So I basically knew that I had out to get out of McKean when I wanted to because my points was wrong. I should never got sent to the medium, but it was what it was. I took the trip, see how it was, and when I was ready to go, I went to my unit manager like, man, you need to fix my points. He's like, oh, I'm gonna see what's up, man. I was right. So he fixed my points, and eventually my security level dropped. And from there, I went to FCI Forest City in Arkansas. And that's like the most significant time of my bit because I stayed there the longest. And FCI Forest City was like, wow. My first day on the compound was a black ran institution. It's beautiful women everywhere. I'm used to being in the hills with these hillbilly looking ass white women. And so I'm seeing sisters everywhere. And my first day in the unit, I go in the unit. As soon as I get in the unit, I go in the bathroom. It's a smoke fest. Niggas in there smoking everywhere and niggas drunk. I'm like, oh shit, I love it here. You know what I'm saying? So Forest City was like the turning point though, because at the same time I was wild. Because I remember this, I went to the hole for drinking. I got caught drunk on the yard. So when I come out the hole, this is when I run into my partner T-Mac. And T-Mac gonna be on the episode of my Fed Vacation. You know, I tune into that episode, but I meet Mac, and Mac a straight-laced, no bullshit dude. Vice Lord, stand-up dude, was since the 35 years from Chicago, and he was on business though. Like, he not letting the time doing him. So he write books. So that's how we meet, we get to talking, and he kind of inspired me to do books. But my first book wasn't my Fed Vacation. My first book was actually the Wall Street Story, which is my life from the beginning until I went to prison, which I'm going to release that soon. But, you know, I met T-Mac, and I also met the author Seth Ferranti. Shout out to my man Seth Ferranti, because technically Seth kind of sparked my writing career because I was working on the Wall Street Story, but I was figuring how can I get out here a little bit more. So I had read Seth's books, you know, because you know in the system they got where you read all these hood books, but Seth had the true crime novels, like the gangster novels. So I was more into that. So once I started reading Seth's books, I'm like, damn, and I run into Seth at the next prison. I ran into him at Forest City. So I don't have no qualms. I'm a man. So I pulled up on Seth. Yeah, man, I read your books. Woo. So me and him just started rapping. And he was giving me game on certain shit. So I came up with the idea of like, man, why don't you let me write for your website? He got GorillaConvict.com. So I'm going to let me write for your website. I'm going to do a story about Detroit. We're going to call it the Dirty Glove Diaries. So I did it. It was initially supposed to be a blog. I did the first article, and it did good. So we come back with a second article. The second article does a little bit better. So now I get the idea of, fuck that. I'm going to put out a book called the Dirty Glove Diaries. I'm from Detroit. I'm so in love with Detroit. I want to put on for our city, and this is a way for me to stay relevant, way for me to stay creating. So that's why I came up with my first book, The Dirty Glove Diaries, which is available on Amazon right now. If you haven't read that, go check it out. The Dirty Glove Diaries, my first novel. But you know, it's a book dedicated to Detroit. It's about all the gangsters from Detroit. I got a story in there about a chapter about Kwame, chapter about Coleman Young, chapter about BMF, a chapter about the Street Lords, chapter about my neighborhood, about growing up in Bronx. You know, it's a story of Detroit. You know what I mean? Check it out. But I stayed at Forest City 6 years, and Forest City is where I kind of got introduced into cell phones. And I say that's like the best thing that ever happened to me during my prison sentence, that I got a chance to play with cell phones, because I was gone since 2008. If I would have never met cell phones in prison, I would come home. I wouldn't be as sharp as I am now, because people still are amazed to this day. Like, damn, how you do all that time? You come home, hit the ground running. You know this, you know that, because I taught myself with them phones.
So
So it was a blessing, but I got in trouble for it a lot of times. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? But in hindsight, fuck me getting in trouble. Look at how much further that helped me getting out. So,
absolutely,
shout out to Forest City for having phones and being that loose. You know what I'm saying? So from
absolutely.
Forest City, I came back up north. I went to FCI Loretto. FCI Loretto was a little bit way stricter than Forest City. You know what I mean? But where there's a will, there's a way. The criminal element always exists in prison. It ain't really too much you can't get in prison, but a out date. You know what I'm saying?
For real.
So, we made what we made happen. So phones popped up there. And from Loretto, I stayed there like 3 years, but I had my goal in mind to get to the camp. The camp is real loose. Ain't no fences around camps. And, those are the stories that I always heard my whole bit to get to this camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally made my way to a camp, and sheesh, that was a movie.
Mm.
I went
In a
to,
good way or
yeah,
bad?
in a great way. I went to Ashland Camp in Kentucky, so it was in close proximity, 6 hours from Detroit. So my whole thing was I went to the camp to fuck up, to get on
Mm.
bullshit. I want some pussy.
Mm.
I'm running off, you know what I mean? So my first opportunity, that was my whole thing, you know what I mean? And I remember it clearly because dudes are running off and running off and running off. You see it every night, but I really wasn't ready yet. So they had this motherfucking police, man. He used to be like a dickhead police. Most of the police at the camp are kicked back. They don't give a fuck. But this one was on all bullshit. Like, he coming to fuck with you every day about anything. So I got some loud ass weed. I got some gelato in my nutsack. So he smelling weed, but it's so loud he thinking somebody smoking in the unit. So he walking through the unit. And I'm just getting up one morning, and he pull up on me like, "Hey, what you doing?" And I'm in my locker getting my glasses. So he like, "What you doing?" I'm like, "I ain't doing nothing." So he shake me down and shit, but he don't find the weed. So I'm like, "Damn, that's a close call." So my partner from DC like, "Hey, Slim," DC dudes always say Slim.
Mm.
"Hey, Slim, you jack geeking like a motherfucker. You run around here fucking with that loud ass weed, playing with that phone. You need to go get some pussy." So when he said that, I'm like, "You right," because it was a close call. I almost blew it all
Mm.
for some weed. So that weekend, I left, went to the room, and man,
Wow, how you leave? Like how does that work? Like quickly, how can you?
like most camps don't have a fence around it,
Oh, right,
and the
that's
doors don't
true.
lock.
Yeah.
So it's just you wait till the right time, and you coordinate the shit. You call your broad or whoever coming to get you, and y'all, do it like that.
Wow.
But Ashland was a little bit difficult because Ashland had a gate. So it actually took a team effort for me to leave,
Mm.
because if I'm leaving, you got to open the gate for me. And it took two people to open the gate. So,
Mm.
quite naturally, I got to look out who opened the gate for me. So when I'm leaving, what you want?
Mm-hmm.
Bring me this back there, because we getting whatever fuck we want from the street. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that happened. And Loretto came back to hunt, because me and my partner had a phone at Loretto, and I left the phone at Loretto, and the police found it, sent it off to the FBI lab, and my information came back in. And so that's how I ended up blowing the camp.
Mm.
I didn't actually get caught doing nothing at the camp, but that killed my whole run at the camp. But shit,
Got you.
it was worth it.
So okay, so just to go back to the essence of my fair vacation, when you initially began to write this book, where were you at? What location were you at?
I started writing my fair vacation during my second stint at Loretto.
Okay.
Because initially, like I said, I went to Ashland Camp from Loretto. But when I blew that, they sent me back to Loretto.
Mm-hmm.
So while at Loretto, me, I got my hands on another cell phone. So I ended up getting caught with that cell phone and going to the shoe. So being in the shoe, you in the shoe. The shoe is special housing unit. If anybody don't know what the shoe is, and you're in there 23 hours a day. You get 1 hour for recreation out. So it's like boring as fuck. So I done did plenty stinks in the shoe and then let them go to waste.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm gonna use this time to do something. So I started working on my fair vacation, but I stopped. I was working on it and I stopped, and it took me maybe a year or so later to end up finish it. I ended up going from FCI Loretto to FCI Allenwood. And Allenwood, I just got to create somehow my creative juices just got to sparking, and I just sat down, locked in, and knocked it out. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And when you in your thought process and writing it, what was your intentions on writing this book? Was it the same thing that made you want to turn this into a platform, or
Pretty much, I really wanted to tell my story. You know what I mean? And it was more so me just telling my story and being informative, because on this platform I can get more deeper. I can break down laws and everything, and I didn't really do that too much in the book. It was really just me creating a lane for myself, because I knew coming home I couldn't go back to my old life. So I felt like me knowing what was going on a little bit, the documentaries, the movies, the series, that was the thing, and the book was just a way to sharpen that skill on my way home. Because no way I can make a movie in prison. I could write movies. I actually start writing a script in prison too. So that was just a way for me to stay relevant, a way for me to stay creative, but at the same time tell my story.
yeah, yeah. So, bam, you write the book, but you don't stop there. Um, you actually get the book published, um, build a website, and this is all from prison. Um, Talk a little bit about them next steps. Like, what made you want to like really go ahead and legitimize it? Was it the fact that being in the feds, you ran into other people that showed that it was possible to do this? You know, like, damn, I'm looking at people actually make it happen while in here. Let me go ahead and do what I got to do to make it happen.
And again, like I say, like I have to give a lot of that credit to me beating Seferanti. Seferanti is somebody I've seen have a whole situation, a whole business, a whole company, a whole brand from in prison, off writing about prison experiences, about dude's story that was in prison, about gangsters. And we're not glorifying it. It could be educational too. You know what I'm saying? So me seeing how Seth did it, I just kind of took his blueprint and patterned myself after that, but just put my own spin on it.
Exactly.
So quite naturally, I started the LLC, Wall Street Worldwide LLC. I got the website done, and got the book published, and it was just up there. And I felt I was making the necessary steps to prepare myself for coming home, so I have something to hit the ground running with when I'm home.
Absolutely. If you can talk a little bit about the people that helped you, because I'm sure like you just couldn't do all of that by yourself. Like what were some of the people that helped you actually get this stuff done?
I mean, now it's a publisher, Christelle Publications, and she's actually based out of Oklahoma but from Detroit, and she does a lot to help incarcerated authors build their platform and get their shit out there. So Crystal was a major part in me facilitating everything, but for real, I gotta give all the credit to my ex Mika, because Mika was my legs. I had all these ideals and all these shit I was trying to do, but essentially in there they're only ideals. So I needed some legs to make this shit happen. So I give Mika all the credit for that. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Our situation didn't work on the outside, but I always tell her like nothing can take away from what you did for me and how you helped me. So shout out to Mika. I hope you see this and know that, it's still all love.
No doubt, no doubt. So, bam, you do all of this, and how long was it like after you got it published, after you got the website? How long was it before you actually came home?
Almost 2 years.
Mm,
Yeah, because I got the book published in July of 21.
mm,
I ended up coming home in April of 23.
mhm.
So roughly 2 years.
And so when you come home and you got your book, man, a I seen you do a like an album. I mean, not an album, but like a book release. Um, I saw you do the book release, and like you actually got legs behind this thing, and you actually got a bunch of solid guys that's supporting it. Um, Talk a little bit about the experiences that you've had on being free promoting your book, and not only just promoting your book but also the process of you building this platform right now in which you already got episodes filmed. You've been working like crazy, you know what I mean? Talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about actually getting it done on this side of the fence.
On this side of the fence, like it's for real, it wasn't easy as I thought it would be. But with the help of a few solid guys, like I have to give shout out to my man Chill. Like Chill has opened a lot of doors for me and presented a lot of situations for me. Even me meeting you, he bringing us together. Me being a part of the Forum magazine, that was all his doing. So I give him credit for that. With my knowledge of the certain things I learned while I was in prison that I felt that helped me a little bit more. And then certain situations like real motherfuckers do real things. I know that's a cliche saying, but that's real. Like my partner T Mac, the book signing was actually his book signing, but we both free now. He's been home less than 6 months. So this is a platform he got going on. He invited me to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, that was just like the commodity of our brotherhood. And me, far as building this platform, like always had this idea of having a podcast since I won't say the beginning of the podcast, but when I first learned what podcast was and was seeing it. And for me watching Gillian Wallow, $1,000,000 worth of game, that's like those are a big inspiration for me. So I kind of wanted to pattern myself a little bit after that. And then for real, the straw that broke the camel's back was me meeting you. Because I sat and watched the Forum magazine on the phone in jail. And me meeting you and being a part of this and seeing your whole setup and the game you gave me on how to do it and record this and do this, get this. So that really what blew the candles out. That's what set me off and running.
Yes, sir. What is your hopes and the things that you like want to accomplish, like the end goal of this platform, this podcast, these episodes that you're about to release? What's the end goal and the end objective that you want the people to receive when it's all said and done?
The end goal is for real for it to be educational, to prevent the younger generation from going through what I went through, going through the mistakes I went through. Like hustling, it ain't the end all be all. Sure, some of us are put in these situations because of desperation, but we don't even capitalize off the opportunity with the money. We blow the money, but it's a different way. You can put the same dedication, the same grind into doing something legit and be more successful. You don't got to watch your back. You don't got to worry about going to prison. You don't worry about somebody kicking in your door. So the end goal is to bring awareness to that, to be informative to that. And essentially the end goal ultimately is to have a nonprofit. I want to take this platform and build it into a nonprofit for children with incarcerated parents, because I've seen the effects of the relationships with children and their parents, the negative and the positive. Just dudes being able to see their kids. I was blessed to be able to see my kids on visits in prison, but I seen a lot that wasn't blessed with those opportunities, and that kind of killed the relationship between them and their children. Like those visits kind of strengthened the bond with me and my children. So that's something I'm very passionate about. Not only is I want to prevent dudes from going to prison, but for those that are in prison, I want to help them with just having that bond with their kids, creating that family structure, because family is everything. At the end of the day, if we ain't doing it for our family, what are we doing it for?
No doubt. No doubt. Man, this this was a your story is very inspirational, and seeing and knowing and hearing like all of the things that you've experienced, um being in the mud, but also knowing that the mud can also refine you too. The mud can also be a cleanser, you know what I mean? And just to see you stand where you stand right now and build what you building right now is definitely inspirational. And I know that with this platform, like I literally know that it's a lot of people that's gonna get a lot of benefit out of it, man. So um definitely continue to do what you're doing. And of course, if it's anything that I can do to aid and assist, we're gonna make it happen. Um, but in closing, man, any last remarks or last things, message that you want to give to the youngins, and when can we expect for this platform to launch and people to actually see what you've been working on the screen?
On fair vacation, I'm gonna actually use this interview as the inaugural episode. So this is just a segue to what I got to come. I got some good guests lined up, some good topics we're gonna discuss. Let some dudes come on there, tell their story, be informative, be educational, and hopefully be cautionary and be preventative to keep the youth from doing what we did, because the street shit is a myth. The realest nigga ain't the real nigga. The nigga you idolize growing up sometimes is a snitch. So we talk different from kids. So I want to teach different. You know what I'm saying? So that's my whole goal with this platform. And like I say, this is gonna be the inaugural episode. January 23rd on YouTube. Everybody tune in. After that, we're gonna drop an episode weekly with, you know, different guests I'm having on the platform. And like I say, man, My Fed Vacation, the book, if you really want more on my story, because this was just an introduction to the platform. I didn't want this whole thing to be about me. If you want to know more about me, about my time in prison, go buy the book. It's on sale on Amazon right now. It's on my website, wallstreetworldwide.com. Check me out. Also, the Dirty Glove Diaries is for sale right now. Tune into the Forum magazine. We got some shit to making. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, man.
Y'all already know what it is, man. My Fed Vacation, man. Wall Street. Y'all make sure y'all tap in.
So many things in general or specific that I would say that led to me specifically getting indicted. But basically, in so many words, we had, you know, it was a conspiracy case. You know what I'm saying? I was charged with conspiracy to distribute 10 kilograms of more cocaine. And it was basically, you know, more than a couple people that really spoke on the situation. You know what I'm saying? And made statements and made profits and, you know, told and did all of the things that would put me in a position to be in a conspiracy case. You know what I'm saying? I was actually superseded indicted on my case. So once the original people got indicted, the original 30, it might have been like 30 or 32 people, then, you know, some of those people got to speak and kind of opened up Pandora's box to what you have with us, what came out to be like a 142-man indictment.
You know how I know I go, man. I'm actually a victim of the conspiracy thing myself, man. And, you know, that's what's going on in these streets, man, because the feds, the government, be it whatever branch you get arrested by, the ATF, the DEA, the Secret Service, they really not doing too much work. It's always somebody that does the work for them, that gives them the next man. Because a lot of us move the way we supposed to move, but it be a dude that we dealing with or somebody that we dealing with that's not moving the way they supposed to move and bring down the whole operation. So, you know, for everybody that's seen the movie, your mother's movie, First Lady of BMF, that scene where y'all got arrested in St. Louis, if I'm mistaken, as it is. Is that when you initially got arrested?
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I initially got arrested, yeah. Yeah, so that scene was, it was a little inaccurate. They dramatized it a little bit in the sense of they had them coming in the garage and all the drugs was there. I actually never got caught with any drugs.
That's all we was looking for from him. Looking for the men from Atlanta, like, is he cleared? Because if he cleared, guess what? We didn't get the word that he been cleared by Atlanta niggas.
Same way it was with Turk.
Official.
So it was all.
So that's where it went the wrong way. So even though it was a soft compound, as a man, that's one thing.
A man gonna
real
still
motherfuckers gonna do in the
stand on principles wherever you at.
They don't want no question about whether they a rat or a real motherfucker. And if it's smoking and it's blurry, there's something probably there. Man, you know, them two things right there. Real motherfuckers don't keep next to their name. And they don't float around real motherfuckers. You see what I'm saying? So thinking from what I'm hearing he rap about, we expecting that. Dudes that's prominent members from each kind, just expecting it to be clear, like he 100, Joe. So now when you see him in motion, what's up, big brother?
What up, though?
You giving that love to him. He didn't been clear. You know what I'm saying?
All you got is that funky ass chain, nigga, that ain't worth shit. You can't get the money that you paid for that motherfucker back.
Definitely can't.
So when you start looking at it like that, like it's like, bro, we gotta to get ahead because we start behind. We gotta make sure we put all our money in assets where they can be growing instead of shit that don't hold value.
Show and tell shit.
Yeah, like
show and